What's up, people? It is Dave. It is Duncan.
Yes, I'm
back for another album review with another little beer in hand.
Cheers!
Cheers. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Texan death metal quintet Tribal Gaze. The band's new album, The Nine Choirs, will be released on September 16th via Maggot Stomp. So, this is, believe it or not, the debut album from...
This is the debut album for all these bands. Right? There's a whole crop of bands out there that are like, we're just going to do our first album this year, and this first album is going to sound like as blatantly awesome as 90s death metal as possible, and you're going to sit there and love it because you've been spoon-fed, overproduced, oversaturated, overworked, and wanky death metal.
True that.
And they're all the same. Like every single one, they all have different sounds, but they're all coming out with the same ethos. Yeah. And regardless whether or not I am 100% down to clown on it, Dave, we're going to get to in a minute. I am applauding their bravado.
Yeah.
More of this, please.
For sure. Okay, so during the spring of 2022, the band cut guitars, bass, and vocals themselves out of home studios in Dallas, Texas, and then laid down drums at The Bubble in Austin. The musicians naturally progressed as part of the process. The album was mixed by Taylor Young at the Pit Recording Studio, has worked with Regional Justice Centre, Drain, God's Hate, and then mastered by Brad Boatwright.
Oh, we love you, Brad. We love you, love you, love you. I also just love these guys are like that. You want to form a band? Aye, let's do it. Well, we'll just record next week. Aye, why not? Our album's out next month. It's so fucking just DIY as fuck.
Yeah, love it.
Love it.
The Nine Choirs refers to the supposed nine choirs of rankings of angels in heaven, guitarist Quentin Stotts elaborates. There's been no shortage of writing in death metal about hell and Satan, used to provoke thought and to create discomfort amongst people for decades. What would scare a Christian more? Hell, or getting to heaven and finding out it's not all they believed it was?
Love it. Profound.
In the end, Tribal Gaze carves out their own niche through an unwavering commitment to the kind of integrity that shakes institutions. We didn't do this band for anyone but us, so it's exciting to see people enjoying our art. We're confident the LP will deliver much more than was expected of us.
I would say that what's more horrific is getting your way into heaven and finding your dead mother being railed by Hugh Hefner.
That's quite terrifying, yep.
Also weirdly specific.
Yes, it is.
I've not had that dream before. Doesn't fucking haunt me every night.
Oh my god. Into the mind of Duncan, ladies and gents.
And it was a Tuesday.
Peek behind the curtain. I remember hearing they released an EP called Godless Voyage. And I remember hearing that EP for the first time. I only heard it this year, although I think they officially released it last year and then it got put out on a label this year, I think. But I remember getting to the end of the EP and just shedding a single tear. Just
because it was only an EP.
Yeah.
Classic Davey. Well, it's a fucking waste of time here. Give me an album.
Well, you know, I don't usually do EPs. Like, it's just like EPs are just like just not really my thing. But actually, Godless Voyage was one of those occasions where I was like, I got to the end, I was like, what? No, don't, you can't just finish there. You can't just stop right there. That's not fair. So I was just like, I needed more. Tribal Gaze.
Just think that experience you had is every woman having sex with you. Is that it? Do we have to stop there? Just give me another couple of minutes and everything will be fine.
Yeah, that's true.
And by you, I meant the royal you. I meant man. I know I wasn't, but no.
Right, okay.
Everyone's fulfilled with you. Like
a peek behind the curtain in daily sex life. But was this worth the wait, Duncan? Yes, it was fucking worth the wait.
Can I just interject here? Yeah. Like a Davey quote from last night. I have rinsed this album to death.
Yeah,
was maybe the quote that I got last night, and I decided to have a little bit of fun with Dave because I liked it. I was like that. Really? I just like thinking he'll take the joke, and he almost drove the car off the fucking highway. Like, I've never seen him so fucking angry in my entire life, to the point that I had to instantly take back the joke. I was like, I'm only joking, Dave.
Look at the road, Dave, you're driving.
Get us back in the right lane and not into oncoming traffic.
True, yeah.
Don't fuck with
him. Yeah, this is everything I love about groovy, stank face death metal. This is just, and like, Tribal Glaze have tribal gaze even.
Tribal Glaze is something else.
Tribal Glaze. Wow.
This is rude.
Release your inner warrior with a Tribal Glaze. The new donut coming from Krispy Kreme. Coming this September.
Where your mind went?
Oh, we know where your mind went.
I thought that's what you call it when you'd like spaff on a woman's tits while wearing a loincloth.
Tribal Glaze.
Only when you're wearing a loincloth. Like a pair of coconut titty holders, you know what I mean? A fucking grass skirt.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, this album, man. Like, there are some albums where the riffs just fuck, Duncan. You know what I mean? It's just one of those albums where the riffs just keep on coming and they just fuck, Duncan. And this is one of those albums. Tribal Gaze they've as I've said, they've clearly made an album for themselves, and they've had a lot of fun doing it. But this is an album that will 100% satisfy the fans. This is the type of death metal. It's utterly infectious. Like, this is, as you said, this is like your 200 Stab Wounds, your Sanguisugabog, your Malignant Altar. That type of death metal. It's just packed with so many great riffs that it almost becomes impossible to pick a favourite track on this album, because I lost count how many times I just started laughing at just how fucking cool this album was. Like, every track is a moment you're just like, fucking yes, man, come on. Like, every
son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And it's not like, well, I was listening, I was like, I mean, it's not, listening, you're thinking, this is revolutionary, this is pioneering in the genre. It's not like that, but it's just, it's thick, it's stank-faced death metal that's just right up in your grill and completely just bludgeoning for the whole album. But what I love about albums like this, and this album as well, is just, it's kind of like, it's modern in its heaviness, but it's characteristically old school at the same time. It has a lot of like throwback elements in the production. You've got the heavy reverb on the vocals, that kind of like thunderous natural drum tone. As you say, very 90s in places, but it's still got like a weight to it that you'd hear in a kind of modern death metal album. The other thing that this has going for it is a runtime of 35 minutes. This is like, that is the perfect length for an album like this. It doesn't run out of ideas. It doesn't become repetitive or monotonous. It finishes and you're instantly like, I would just love to relive that album right over again, and you're just hitting play once again. There's so many satisfying moments on this album, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with the way the tracks have been arranged. They sound like they've been written for live shows, to be honest. Like, this is just an album that oozes heaviness, and that the drums are constantly switching between sections of blasts into these monster grooves, which are usually accompanied by a wee ride cymbal.
That's how you get Davey on board.
Oh, the ride!
And it's come back. It was at one point there. I think it might have been the most unpopular cymbal, and for some reason, it's having a resurgence.
So underrated, man. And I love it just when it kicks in with those grooves and that ride. It's just like, there's a track on here called Shapeless Sovereign, and it's packed with those like very kind of like Morbid Angel type kind of dissonant grooves. It just makes you keep wanting more, and as the track's going on, you're like, yes, and about halfway through the track, there's a riff that kicks in. It's kind of like a dun 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 dun, that kind of sound, and I was just floored. I was like, oh man, that's it, game's over. This is just fucking ridiculous. I'm covered in my own semen at this point. I'm just like I mean, like, it's so it just
that's what they call a treble glaze, Dave.
That's exactly what they call that. But like, and it's not even like the riffs play a huge part in this, but it's not just the riffs themselves. It's the way they kind of set them up, and they execute them. Just the impact and the payoff is just, it's that chef's kiss moment. It's just, it keeps you engaged the whole way through. Like, it's varied in tempo. It's very clever with its kind of rhythmical changes. The tracks have individuality. It doesn't just sound like one long song or one long riff. It's loaded with, it's got like kind of old school solos, which adds another layer into the mix. And as I said, perfect length. I mean, the only thing you could say about this is it's not anything you haven't heard done before. Like, there's clear nods to many death metal bands of the 90s, but it's fantastically done. Like, the riffs on this album are harder than Morning Wood. Like, it's just fucking like, what more do you want? What more do you want from this album? Nothing is the answer. So Duncan, there's your quote, by the way. The riffs on this album are harder than Morning Wood.
Yes, you feel free to use that, and please credit Dave to that, because I would never be as crass to use that.
What would you make of Tribal Gaze?
Yes, this sits, once again, I think we've talked about it before. Like, when it comes to death metal, there's a whole swath of those bands that kind of just passed me by. And I think you touched on, there was a phrase that you used, a ton of phrases there that I really liked, this idea of like bands trying to outdo each other. I think that's where the kind of progressive technical side of death metal is now going. Bands that like constantly trying to one up each other. And it gets to a certain point where I'm listening to it and I'm going, who is the music written for? You know what I mean? Is this written to please the band, or is this literally you proving a point?
Yeah.
And both hold their own merit. Like, proving a point musically can sometimes deliver some of the greatest albums of all time. I'm looking at you, Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails. See, I would just slip that in there. Unrelated. Did it? Just did it out of nowhere. Hashtag Nine Inch Nails. Hits on the video, Dave. Hits in the video. But yeah, like some bands will like take that as a challenge to do it, and then other bands like Tribal Gaze just wear their influences on their sleeve in a completely sort of holistic way. The thing I loved about this is that the change ups that are used here and used really, really well are the element that make them not different than other bands, but that's the technical element here. So you're right, they're not reinventing the wheel in any way, shape or form at all. Everything you've heard here, you've heard other bands do. But the less is more approach that they've done is kind of amplified by the clever way they switch up their tracks. Like that natural feel for, right, this riff's run its course, let's change it. They've got that, like, a scary finger on the pulse. And I think, once again, leaning into something you said, which I think was I was going to say profound, but it is kind of profound. There's a level of, when you listen to these songs, you're instantly visualizing them live. And there's that part of, like, anticipating, like a great comedian can anticipate when the jokes aren't working and when to change their material. A great band knows live, especially when creating a live set, that if you're going to play the ballad, the next song needs to be the banger. And these guys don't have ballads. It's all banger. So if this riff's playing here and it's going in a particular direction where it's really, really heavy and really, really fast, we need to bring in the groove now, and the groove hits in and it's fucking sweet. And then, right, where the groove's been there for a while, they're all headbanging all the rest, right, time to show a bit of virtuosity, let's get the guitar solos kicked in, we guitar solo here, back to the heaviness. And they have... It's not a precise formula, but they do have a structure which makes sense within the songs. None of these songs are long. I think the opening track might be the longest thing on here, and then everything falls under 4 minutes to the end. And as a result of that, they play around with what they can do in 3.5 minutes surprisingly well. Like they're instant riff machines. Everything in this is just like, oh, you like that riff? How about this? And you're like, oh, I really like that one as well. Oh, you like that one? How about this? And you're like, oh, that's really, really good as well. And they just keep they just seem to be like able to just keep churning them out. Love the drum work on this. The drum change-ups, because it's not fucking, I don't hate it, because it's not wanky technical death metal, right? I get the feeling that the drummers in these bands just have personality. Yeah, I can hear the personality in their drumming, and that means more to me. Like small flurries where the bass pedal just starts doing something different, and guess what? The guitar syncs up when I'm like, right, so simple, so effective. That sometimes less is more. Sometimes not reinventing the wheel works better, and that old adage, and I think it's spot on when it comes to old school death metal. If it ain't broke, Dave. And that's kind of what, and you mentioned 200 Stab Wounds, Sanguisugabog, definitely, although like both those bands have and I think Tribal Gaze to an extent have a sense of humour there. They maybe don't utilise them in their lyrics, but certainly in their songwriting, it's playful, it's quirky, it's fun, and it's Moorish. You're right, you listen to a 35, 36 minute album of this sort of groove, headbangy death metal, and it comes to the end and you're like, why not? Don't mind if I do. Play. And then you're off to the races again. Very much like yourself, I think it's difficult because when you're reviewing an album, you're kind of stuck at cross purposes, because in part you're reviewing the music, and on a musical level this is fucking great. There isn't anything bad about this. There isn't a misstep. There isn't a bit where I'm like, that song shouldn't be in here. There's none of that on here. And then the other side is about, right, well, I'm reviewing this in 2022. How does this stack up amongst the music that's come out now? And you're right in saying Tribal Gaze aren't doing anything new. Yeah. But it is very, very, very easy, and many bands do it, where they say, my favourite band's like Cannibal Corpse or Morbid Angel, and you listen to it and it sounds like it, but it doesn't. And you're kind of like, it's kind of cringy, and I know what you're doing, but get some new ideas. These guys do have like a clear, like you could track their, almost like a family tree. You could if they were a tree, you could chop them like down and count the rings saying Cannibal Corpse. Like they'd literally be named. I can see where all the influences come from. But at no point was it like that. Well, that's a Cannibal Corpse riff. No, it sounds a wee bit Morbid Angel. None of that's in there at all. If anything, what I felt was they captured the spirit and the vibe without borrowing the sound, which I think is important. So yeah, I think there's a lot to. I think there's a lot to get out of this. I think it's a crowd pleaser for sure. I think these guys would be awesome fucking live. You have a feel of it. Vocally, I mean, vocals are maybe the least remarkable thing about here.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But for the genre of what they're doing, it 100% fits.
Yep.
And like, to me, it doesn't stand out, but that works to it in its positive way, and that it doesn't work. Like, few people are going to have a corpse grinder, your front of your band. That is very good.
He's got a way of making things infectious lyrically, you know what I mean? That sticks in your head. I don't get that with this album, but you know, his tone is unbelievable.
His tone is great, you know what I mean? And it sits there perfectly. The way I put this like down to describing how I felt listening to this album, there's a scene in the movie Ace Ventura where Ace goes in and Cannibal Corpse are playing, and he starts walking in, and at first he's fine, and then he starts like fucking like getting in and all the rest. Literally what you will feel like every single song on this album. When it kicks, when the groove kicks in, you'll just be like, all right, I should be fucking headbanging here, and you just want to get into it. And I think that's a testament to him, to be able to pull off 3 or 4 of those songs on an album. Well done, guys, especially in your debut, to have an album wall to wall of that. 9 songs, and they're all just like banger, 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 banger. It's fucking great. So like sometimes not reinvent the wheel, sometimes not being the most original band in the world can pay off when what you're doing's done very well. And I think Tribal Gaze are the prime example of that. Very much like your 200 Stab Wounds, very much like your Sanguisugabogs. This kind of new wave of, I don't want to coin this because people think this is the new wave of old. Like it's kind of new crop of bands that specifically sound like of a time capsuled era, modernized for new fans. I think is needed as a response to the rise of technical death metal, just as a counterpoint. But also, just it's arrived at the perfect time. People want to go out to gigs. People want to get crazy. They want to fucking headbang. They want to have a good time. They've been locked up for 2 years. Oh, and guess what? The death metal scene provideth.
Yep. Okay. Tribal Gaze and the Nine Choirs. Ratings for this album. This is an easy 4.5 for me. I didn't even really have to think about it, to be honest. I felt like it was on par with, say, Slave to the Scalpel or Tortured Whole or Realms of Exquisite Morbidity. It's everything that I'm enjoying about death metal right now. Very Moorish. It's one that I'll come back to a shit ton. These guys are really good at what they do, and as you say, for a debut, really good work. Really good job, guys. 4.5 from me. What about yourself?
Same, yeah. There's nothing to really criticise here, which is frustrating because as a reviewer, you're wanting that. You're wanting a little something you can say. Well, let me dig into this and show you how smart I am. It's not in here, but I challenge anyone to listen to this album and not like it.
Yeah.
It's even in the extreme world that it encompasses. I challenge you. There's no way you cannot headbang to this. It's fucking impossible. So I can't wait. The first album.
Yeah.
You know what this means? They can only get better with time, Dave,
yeah.
and they're already at a high level. So let's do this.
Yeah, 100%. So the Nine Choirs drops on September 16th on Maggot Stomp. Links below to the band's Facebook, to the Bandcamp. Check this out. Go and pre-order it because it's well fucking worth it. Let us know your thoughts. Stick some comments in below once you've heard it. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.